Hi everyone, it's Matt from The Pen Habit, back to do another video, and it's one that I can't believe I haven't done up to this point. I'm going to actually be reviewing 3 pens in this video, but they're all basically the same pen, just under different names. And if you've been around the fountain pen community, you know what pen I'm talking about. This particular one is from the German company Lamy, and this is the All-Star, AL-Star. This is the clear plastic version of the same pen known as the Lamy Vista. And they have a plastic version that is not clear, that comes in a whole variety of colors, and that is known as, of course, the Lamy Safari. Now, if you've been around the community, you know these pens. Everybody probably has at least one. This is considered kind of one of the ultimate starter pens for people just getting into fountain pendom. So let's go ahead and kind of talk through the design of each of them, do the stats, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Safari, All-Star, Vista, just kind of in a theoretical term. So this is the pen here, and the barrel is completely cylindrical, on this pen has a little kind of cross in the plastic button at the top of the pen. Not all the pens have this cross. Sometimes it's the same color as the barrel. Sometimes it doesn't have the cross in it. It's just a circle. So it kind of depends. They changed the design on this. The clip is this kind of elongated horseshoe shape. And on this pen, on the All-Star, it's actually not, it doesn't feel very secure. It feels cheap, and you can see it when I push here, it kind of comes out there. So it doesn't feel particularly secure. It's never come off. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just doesn't feel secure. In terms of the bottom of the pen, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, it's basically cylindrical. I'm going to turn up the light on this side just a touch. And over here. Basically cylindrical, except they flattened 2 sides of the cylinder a little bit. They have engraved the name Lamy right here. I don't know how well you can see that in this light. So yeah, they've engraved it there. And then there's a little cutout in the barrel here, and it's actually cut out. It's not clear acrylic or anything like that. So you can't use this as an eyedropper, but ink window to see how the cartridges are doing. The section is rounded on the bottom and then has kind of 2 flattened sections here. Now, this pen basically forces a tripod grip. It's really hard to use this pen unless you have just kind of a basic tripod grip. So be aware that if you're an overhand writer, or you hold it with your pen, you do anything funky with your grip, this pen may not fit you well. It also, because it's kind of triangular at the top here, it's very narrow, does not work for upside down writing at all, in my opinion. The nibs on these Lamys are actually quite interesting. They are, rather than sliding in and being held in by friction inside the section, they slide on and are held on by friction onto the feed itself. So you can just slide them right off and swap them out as you see fit. And they come in a whole variety of different sizes. This originally came with a silver-colored broad nib, and the nib was the scratchiest nib I've ever used. And back then, this was one of the first probably 6 or 7 pens I'd ever purchased. I did what little I knew how to do to smooth it out. I didn't have all the stuff I have, all the materials I have now. And it was a little better, but I never liked the nib. In fact, the pen got inked twice and then never touched again until I finally bought some replacement nibs. And I like the black plated nibs better, so I got those instead. This one happens to be a fine. But I did not like the nib that came with it. It was a horrible, scratchy mess. This is a cartridge and converter pen, and unfortunately, they use proprietary cartridges and converters. Lamy does offer several inks, and they've got several colors in their line. But if you want to use a bottled ink, you are going to have to go ahead and get the converter, and the converters run about $5 US, which, frankly, I find ridiculously high for a converter. This cheap piece of plastic probably cost all of 25 cents to make. And when you can buy an entire pen converter included, and with free shipping from China to the US for $6, charging $5 for a converter alone is a little ridiculous in my opinion. It would have been better if they just used standard international, but we all know how I feel about that. So that is the pen. I'll do a quick show you some of the quick differences here with the Vista. The Vista is basically, as I mentioned, the same pen. Instead of doing an engraved Lamy, they've embossed it here with this kind of silver overlay. And you can see the inner cap in this metallic color here. The clip on this one feels quite a bit more solid than the clip does on the All-Star. But then again, this pen is much newer to me. I haven't used it anywhere near as much as I've used the All-Star, so that might have something to do with it. And the section, rather than being a kind of a smoky plastic, is a clear plastic, so you can see the feed and the ink within. One other quick thing I'll point out is that the converter has these two, and I don't know if you can see this very well, has these two little nubs right here on the side, which slots in the section and help seat it a little bit more securely. It's a nice feature, but again, it's one of those proprietary features that kind of make it a pain in the rear end. All right, so the Lamys are kind of, I'm going to put this honestly in the way I look at it. I don't like these pens very much. I don't like the way they look. I don't like the way they feel in my hand. There are people out there who adore their Lamys, just absolutely positively adore them and collect every color that comes out. And they come out in a lot of colors. These pens to me are kind of like the Beanie Babies of the pen collecting world. I'm just not a fan. I don't like the way they fit in my hand very much. I don't like the way they feel cheap. And I'll talk about some of the additional reasons why I don't like them when I when I do the writing sample here in just a second. To me, these pens are very middle of the road. There's nothing exciting about the design. They are kind of a modern design, which is nice, but I tend to like a little bit classier design. They don't feel particularly well made. They don't feel particularly solid, but they don't feel particularly poorly made either. They're just kind of there. This Vista is actually my take it with me grocery shopping pen. The one where if I drop it and roll over it with the shopping cart, I don't really care. They're not terribly expensive, and they write fairly well. But frankly, I think you're going to get a better pen if you go get a Jinhao X450 or X750 than you will spending the money on a Lamy, and you're going to save a whole bunch of money. So let me go ahead and do a writing sample here, and then I'll talk a little bit more about some of the reasons why this pen may or may not be the right fit for you, and we'll wrap up. So here we go with the writing sample. Okay, so I'm going to use the Vista on this writing sample. My experience has been the writing is very similar on every pen, so whether I use the Vista, the All-Star, or the Safari, it doesn't really matter. I should also note that I have owned a Safari in the past. It was a lime green color. I actually gave that away at Christmas time to a niece who loves that color, and gave her a matching journal to go along with it that's also that kind of lime green color. So I no longer have a Safari, and I'm not planning on replacing it. Since the All-Star and the Vista are essentially the same pen, yeah, that's the way it is. So let's go ahead and dive in and do a bit of writing here. So this is the Lamy Vista, and I am using a medium steel nib. The ink is Pelican. Edelstein. Topaz. And as is always the case, we're on a Rhodia dot pad. Okay, now in terms of actual writing, I'm not feeling particularly original today, so Writes fairly well. And the one thing I will say for this pen is this section, which I used to loathe but don't loathe anymore. I just kind of deal with, does help force the correct. I tend to roll my pens like this a little bit, and it's really hard to do in this pen because of the grip. Now, if you can see here, this is how I'm writing. So this is not good writing posture for testing. So you can't judge me based on the way the video shows me writing because my posture's all screwed up in order to get it on the close-up cam. Um, in terms of line variation, probably not surprising. There's not much. It's a pretty rigid nib, not a lot of bounce or anything like that. I will occasionally get some hard starts, but I think that has more to do with the fact that this pen, it's a little too dry for my tastes. I like my pens a little bit wetter, and I think it's smooth, but there's a lot of feedback, more than I would like. So I would probably, if I were going to spend a lot of time using this pen, I would probably smooth it out just a little bit more because I really love that slick, smooth things. If you're one of those people who likes a little more feedback, this might work for you. Um, my experience though has been, and I mentioned this earlier, don't expect with a pen like this, don't expect that every nib is going to be perfectly tuned out of the box. I've bought 4 Lamy nibs. 2 were pretty good. One was on the border of between okay and not okay, and one was really bad. So I suspect with these lower end pens, with these nibs that are interchangeable, you're going to find some that just aren't well tuned or that were got missed in the QC process. Um, Upside down writing, it does write upside down, but it's pretty scratchy and dries out pretty quickly. I wouldn't want to write like this for any real period of time. Uh, yeah, I mean, this is just in my mind, this is just a pedestrian pen. This is a pen you get someone who's used to using a $4 or $5 gel pen where you pop the top off and start writing right away. And there's not a lot of thought that has to go into the pen. There's not a lot of you can't. It's going to be hard to screw this pen up royally, other than breaking it. And it's inexpensive enough that if you do break it, it's not going to be the end of the world. There's just nothing about it that excites me. Now, I will say, and have said already in the video, there are a lot of people out there who adore their Lamy Safaris, their Lamy All-Stars, and their Lamy Vistas. They love these pens. They just adore them. They can't say enough. They collect one of every color, um, and and that's great. Don't get me wrong. The whole point of these reviews is not to tell you what's good and bad, but to tell you why I like or don't like a pen and let you determine whether or not the reasons that I don't like it would be the same reasons you wouldn't like it, or vice versa. The reasons I like it are the reasons you would like it. So in this particular case, these pens just don't do it for me. But there are a lot of people out there who love them. So, take that with a grain of salt. I got no problem being, being an outlier on the pack on this one. So, one really quick thing I forgot to do earlier. The weight on these pens is 10 grams without, 10 gram or and 20 grams with the cap. And that's the same on both of these pens, although that's not quite an apples to apples comparison because this one doesn't have ink in it and this one does. And in terms of length, capped, we are looking at a length of 140 millimeters, or excuse me, 138 millimeters. Uncapped, we are looking at 130, it looks like. And posted, we are at 168, actually. You can post the cap. It does tend to feel, well, actually, it's not too bad. It's pretty well balanced. It's not bottom heavy. It's not top heavy, but it could be a little top heavy. I like my section to be just a little bit heavier on this one. So that's going to do it for the Lamy Vista, the Lamy Safari, and the Lamy All-Star. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments on this video, so let them rip, but keep them civil down in the comments below. Head over to penhabit.com, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. I'm on all of those places. Or you can reach out to me at penhabit@gmail.com. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you here on the next video we do on the Pen Habit. Thanks for watching. Bye.